This plantation is a place where all the legends of frontier life come together. That's another reason why I'm here. To find the reason for people moving this far from civilization. When you think of Virginia's plantations that are situated along the James River, I doubt you think of this one. Tuckahoe was one of the places where the frontier was first claimed in the early 18th century, and where one of America's founders spent his childhood, Thomas Jefferson. One of the first and most wealthy families in the Commonwealth, the Randolphs, had their seat house in Virginia's Tidewater on Turkey Island. But in 1714, head of the family, Thomas Randolph, set out to establish a new headquarters for the family in what was then basically a jungle. He built the timber frame cabin on this site in 1714 and named it Tuckahoe after an old Indian word meaning underground plant. With this being an untamed wilderness owned by the local Monacan tribe, farming here was dangerous, but Tuckahoe continued to thrive. As the plantation grew, Thomas died and a new house was built by his predecessor, William Byrd III, in 1733. The gardens, very similar to those at the Poe Museum, flank both sides of the Great House, and what do you know? More water. The cemetery garden near a row of boxwoods includes these terrace-like features. But in the history of this place, the Randolphs are almost forgotten, because when William died, Peter Jefferson and his wife Jane would bring their children to the plantation, as stated in the will of William. Thomas Jefferson arrived here at the age of 2 and studied at the schoolhouse. Jessica is a docent at Tuckahoe, and she is very knowledgeable about our third president's childhood. Now, what would have it been like when this was a complete frontier?
Wild. Absolutely. You would have had wild dogs and wild animals roaming the property to help protect any of the livestock and the crops here. And symmetry and order was incredibly important to them at that time. They believed that they were creating order out of this chaotic Virginia wilderness here. Cedar Lane, the driveway, runs directly north to south, and the gardens to Plantation Street directly east to west. So they were just obsessed with symmetry and making sure everything was orderly. But they were definitely bringing those European English traditions with them.
The English influenced even more than just the symmetry. It was in the planting and statuary. Now, when Jefferson arrived, what would it have been like?
So Jefferson came to Tuckahoe when he was just 2 years old, and apparently he remembered the trip. He was coming from Shadwell, his home around Charlottesville. So both of the Randolphs died, left behind 3 young orphans, and that is when Peter Jefferson moved his entire family, including young Thomas, from their home in Shadwell down here to Tuckahoe. They really only had school in the summertime because it was very difficult for the tutor to come in during the wintertime. River Road, which is very nicely paved now, was essentially a deer trail at that time.
Speaking of River Road, I'm going to travel on it to find out exactly why these frontiers were moved to Virginia's wilderness.